serving the Republic of the Philippines for more than 75 years. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang. Here are today's Palace top stories. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday directed concerned government agencies to use available legal tools to make rice affordable for all Filipinos. President Marcos issued the directive during a meeting with concerned sectors at Malacañang Palace in Manila to discuss updates on government initiatives in ensuring rice supply and regulating its price, according to a statement posted on State-Run Radio Television Malacañang or RTVM's official Facebook page. President Marcos said the price of rice is a cause for concern despite the recent outlook by the Department of Agriculture or DA that there is still sufficient supply. He said cases of hoarding, effects of tropical cyclones Egay and Falcon in severely affected areas, and rice deficit regions and prices posed by intermediaries are several factors that may have caused the price hike. The DA, currently headed by President Marcos, earlier reported that retailers are selling rice at different prices, some at 38 pesos to 40 pesos per kilo as the cheapest, while other varieties go for 50 pesos per kilo. During the sectoral meeting, President Marcos instructed the Bureau of Customs or BOC to coordinate with the DA to study possibilities of donating seized rice to the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Malacañang press briefer Daphne Osenya Paez told Palace reporters that after the sectoral meeting, President Marcos directed the BOC to continue the warehouse raids to address hoarding and illegal importation of rice. BOC Commissioner Bienvenido Rubio, who joined the press briefing, said the agency is ramping up its efforts to go after illegal rice hoarders and importers, noting that the agency had inspected 3 warehouses in Balagtas, Bulacan. Rubio said the 25,000 estimated sacks of rice found at Great Harvest Rice Mill Warehouse, 167,000 sacks at San Pedro Warehouse, and 10,000 sacks at FS Rice Mill Warehouse were imported from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand with an initial estimated aggregate value of 505 million pesos.
The subject warehouses were sealed temporarily to secure the imported sacks of rice found therein, pending the completion of the inventory by the assigned examiners, which will continue on today, August 29. The owners and operators of the warehouses were directed to submit proofs of payment of duties and taxes due the subject imported sacks of rice within 15 days from the implementation of the law or until September 8, 2023.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has ordered the Bureau of Customs or BOC to continue its warehouse raids to quell hoarders and illegal importers of rice. In a press briefing in Malacañang on Tuesday, BOC Commissioner Bienvenido Rubio said that the BOC is doubling their efforts to hunt down illegal importers of agricultural goods by validating all warehouses, particularly on imported rice.
Well, as per the directive of the President, ang gagawin ko po natin is we will validate all warehouses that are storing imported rice, and then upon validation, we will then issue, again, I will then issue letters of authority to conduct inspection on these warehouses.
He also mentioned the ongoing collaboration of BOC with the Department of Justice or DOJ on the filing of charges against smugglers who have been apprehended.
Now, doon po sa mga nakasuhan, and tuloy-tuloy naman po kaming nagpa-file ng kaso, and now, we are now in close collaboration and coordination with DOJ para po mapabilis yung pagsampa ng kaso at pag-file ng charges against the smugglers po na nahuli natin, na-identify natin.
Meanwhile, the BOC recorded around 16.8 billion pesos collected tariff for legitimate rice importation as of August 26. To date, the BOC has also apprehended around 30 billion pesos worth of contraband and smuggled goods in the country. Rubio said the apprehended contraband is the highest so far in the last 5 years.
Dateline Malacañang.
In our news, the Philippines and the United Kingdom are eyeing to beef up their cooperation in key areas such as trade, security and defense, renewable energy shift, and climate change action. This developed after President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday welcomed British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly at Malacañang Palace in Manila. President Marcos told Secretary Cleverly that there are many opportunities the post-pandemic economy has to offer, adding that Southeast Asian nations' recovery is fast approaching. Secretary Cleverly agreed that the two countries need to enhance their trade relations, noting that there is still room for growth in the future. Acknowledging President Marcos's efforts to attract more foreign investments, Secretary Cleverly said he is optimistic that British firms would put up business in the Philippines with the help of UK Export Finance or UKEF. UKEF, the UK's export credit agency, helps British companies to win export contracts by providing attractive financing terms to their buyers, fulfill contracts by supporting working capital loans, and get paid by ensuring against buyer default. Data from the British Embassy show that the two-way trade between the UK and the Philippines increased by 26% on an annual basis to 2.4 billion British pounds in 2022, with Philippine exports to UK reaching 1.2 billion British pounds. Earlier on that day, Secretary Cleverly and Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA Secretary Enrique Manalo formally signed the joint statement of intent to develop the framework agreement, which will define the scope of the two states' bilateral cooperation under the Philippines-UK Enhanced Partnership. The partnership was launched in December 2021 to strengthen UK-Philippines collaboration in key areas including defense, climate and environment, trade, maritime security, and foreign policy, among others. Apart from boosting cooperation, the two foreign secretaries discussed pressing and evolving regional and international issues of mutual concern during a bilateral meeting at the Diamond Hotel in Manila. Before meeting his Philippine counterpart, Secretary Cleverly visited the Philippine Coast Guard to discuss cooperation on maritime security, counter-terrorism, and environmental protection. The UK was among the foreign governments that expressed serious concern over the August 5 water cannoning incident involving the Chinese Coast Guard while a Philippine boat was en route to resupply the troops stationed at the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal. President Marcos said he is open to the idea of forging alliances and partnerships with the UK when it comes to security and defense. Secretary Cleverly said there are lots of opportunities for the two nations to create a positive bilateral relationship and take advantage of huge growth potential for potential partnerships. The Philippines, the British top diplomat said, is a really good friend and partner to the UK. He also said the Philippines and the UK may also strengthen their cooperation to mitigate the impacts of climate change as well as to promote the use of renewable energy.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has given his nod to the Department of Trade and Industries or DTI's proposed 3-year food logistics action agenda aimed at ensuring food availability, accessibility, and affordability. According to Presidential Communications Office Secretary Cheloy Garafil, the President approved the action plan during a sectoral meeting at Malacañang Palace in Manila on Tuesday, which was attended by select government officials, among them DTI Secretary Alfredo Pascual. Secretary Garafil said the Food Logistics Action Agenda contains 6 key strategies to address food logistics challenges, including smuggling and hoarding. She said the strategies include revolutionizing the country's food distribution system, reducing transport and logistic costs, increasing investments in logistics infrastructure on transportation and storage, and addressing other supply chain gaps. She noted that the action plan also seeks to heighten enforcement measures against hoarding, smuggling, overstaying food imports, and monitoring of warehouses or cold storage facilities. Secretary Garafil added that the Food Logistics Action Agenda intends to use information and communications technology to improve logistics performance. Citing the Trade Secretary's report, Secretary Garafil said the DTI has a pilot project with the Nueva Vizcaya Agricultural Terminal or NVAT and the United States Agency for International Development strengthening private enterprises for the digital economy to help small and medium enterprises transition to mature e-commerce businesses. The project aims to help pivot NVAT from offline to online transactions to maximize the potential of e-commerce and increase market access for farmers' produce. The creation of the 3-year food logistics agenda was one of President Marcos's directives during the 8th cabinet meeting in September 2022 to realize his vision to make the Philippines a logistics hub in Asia. The Food Logistics Action Agenda has been developed by the DTI in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture or DA, the Department of Transportation or DOTR, the Department of Public Works and Highways, the Department of the Interior and Local Government, the Department of Information and Communications Technology or DICT, and other development partners. The sectoral meeting held Tuesday was also attended by Secretaries Benjamin Ables Jr. and Ivan John Uy, Presidential Advisor on Investment and Economic Affairs Frederick Go, DA Senior Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban, Undersecretaries Zeno Ronald Abenoja, and Rosemary Edelion, and Anti-Red Tape Authority Director General Ernesto Perez.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Presidential Communications Office or PCO is asking for an additional 365 million pesos in its proposed 2024 budget to fund its programs and activities such as its media literacy campaign to combat fake news and the expansion of the Freedom of Information program. During a budget briefing of the House Appropriations Committee on Tuesday, Communications Secretary Cheloy Garafil requested an additional allocation of 364.94 million pesos to finance and sustain the Tier 2 proposals of the PCO proper. Secretary Garafil explained that the PCO submitted a budget request of almost 920 million pesos to the Department of Budget and Management, but only 495 million pesos was approved under the 2024 National Expenditure Program or NEP.
Inasmuch as the PCO remains committed to fulfilling our mission and exercising our mandate, we earnestly hope that the committee will consider approving our Tier 2 proposal, which essentially covers the operations, activities, and projects of our new media operations clusters. We also wish to emphasize that our NEP level for 2024 is lower than its allotments in previous years. This despite the fact that our new mandate is now expanded and that the PCO now has more new projects being implemented pursuant to EO number 16.
EO 16 reorganized the PCO to rationalize and consolidate the functions of the communications arm of the executive branch, including the Office of the President or OP. Among the programs included in the Tier 2 proposals is the Marcos administration's Media and Information Literacy or MIL campaign project to combat misinformation and disinformation online. The PCO, in partnership with other government agencies, will develop a comprehensive execution plan that will address the root causes of the proliferation of disinformation. Also included in the Tier 2 proposals is the expansion of the Freedom of Information program, which would provide the citizens' right to access government-held information, documents, data, and statistics. Secretary Garfield said additional maintenance and order operation or other operating expenses or MOOE requirements are likewise needed for providing prior coordination and coverage arrangement to presidential events events and activities. She said the PCO has effectively managed and covered both local and international presidential engagements, particularly 236 presidential engagements and 156 coordination meetings and site inspections. Other Tier 2 programs, activities, and projects that require funding are the Kadiwa ng Pangulo, Konsyerto sa Palasyo, Bagong Pilipinas Debates, Bagong Pilipinas Town Hall Meetings, Climate Change Fora, and the Unified Communications or UNICOM project, among others. Presidential son and Ilocos Norte 1st District Representative Sandro Marcos, for his part, said he would support an increase in the PCO's budget for 2024 through institutional amendments to the General Appropriations Bill.
It's quite clear that despite the transformative process that the PCO is going and the headwinds that its attached agencies are experiencing, their budget is indeed quite meager. So I would just like to make a short manifestation of support, not only to the PCO and its attached agencies, but to Sec Cheloy, whom, as we know, is a product of the House, for any institutional amendments to increase the budget of the department and its attached agencies.
The PCO proper and its attached agencies were allocated a total of 1.793 billion pesos under the NEP. Of the amount, 495.77 million pesos or 28% of the total PCO budget will be allocated for the PCO proper, 482 million pesos or 27% for the Presidential Broadcast Service Bureau of Broadcast Services, 378.9 million pesos or 21% for the Philippine Information Agency, 179.4 million pesos or 10% for the Radio Television Malacañang, 147 million pesos or 8% for the News and Information Bureau, 95.6 million pesos or 5% for the Bureau of Communications Services, while the remaining 1% or 13 million pesos will be allotted for the National Printing Office.
Dateline Malacañang.
President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday paid tribute to veteran broadcaster and host Mike Enriquez, who passed away on Tuesday, commending the late newscaster's dedication to serving the Filipino people through his unbiased delivery of news. On his official X, formerly Twitter account, President Marcos extended his condolences to Enriquez's family and loved ones. He said he was saddened by the passing of Enriquez, whom he described as a pillar in the country's broadcasting industry. Communications Secretary Cheloy Garafil, a former journalist, also condoled with Enriquez's family. Secretary Garafil said Enriquez would be remembered for his contribution to shaping the landscape of unbiased journalism in the Philippines. Enriquez's home network, GMA Network, announced his passing with a tribute at the end of its late evening 24 Oras newscast. Enriquez was one of the anchors of GMA's flagship newscast 24 Oras and hosted the long-running public affairs program Investigador. He also served as president of RGMA Network Incorporated and was senior vice president and consultant for radio operations. He likewise anchored DCWB's Super Balita sa Umaga and Saksisa Double B programs. Enriquez joined the broadcast industry in 1969. He became part of the GMA Network in 1995.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, said it will launch a project that will ensure the resiliency of poor communities from the effects of climate change. DSWD Assistant Secretary for Strategic Communications Romel Lopez said the pilot implementation of the Cash for Training and Work Through Project, or LAWA, or Local Adaptation to Water Access, will be launched in Moncayo, Davao de Oro on August 31. He said Project LAWA focuses on local adaptation to water access interventions to the effects of El Nino, which aligns with the DSWD's mandate in providing targeted assistance to communities impacted by drought and water scarcity. Asik Lopez, also a spokesperson of DSWD, said the project is expected to contribute to the department's broader goal of promoting social protection and building the resilience of vulnerable communities. The LAWA project, with its cash for training and work, aims to provide additional income in support of poor, vulnerable, and marginalized families to indigenous peoples or IPs, farmers and fisherfolk, as well as build community physical assets, particularly water pond, that are vital for sustaining economic activities of the community. LAWA, with the active support from the Department of Agriculture or DA and the United Nations World Food Program, also aims to strengthen partnerships with the provincial government units to address socio-environmental resilience gaps.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Education or DepEd is looking forward to the number of enrollments in basic education to increase in the next few weeks. In a Viber message to reporters, DepEd spokesperson Undersecretary Michael Paua explained that while some schools suspended classes due to heavy rains and flooding, the agency expects that more learners choose to be enrolled on the first day or first week of classes. As of Tuesday, the number of enrollments in public and private schools, including state and local universities and colleges, reached 23,287,925 according to DepEd's Learner Information System. The highest number of enrollments among the regions was recorded in Region 4A with 3,521,242, followed by Region 3 with 2,661,804, and National Capital Region with 2,518,027. Last school year, 2022 to 2023, the DepEd recorded 28,035,042 enrollments nationwide.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Bureau of Treasury or BTR issued the Implementing Rules and Regulations or IRR of the Maharlika Investment Fund or MIF Act of 2023 on August 28. In a statement, the Department of Finance or DOF said the IRR shall take effect on September 12. The IRR was issued following consultations with the founding government financial institutions or GFIs, Land Bank of the Philippines or LBP, and Development Bank of the Philippines or DBP, and the technical working group consisting of the Department of Finance or DOF, Department of Budget and Management or DBM, Securities and Exchange Commission or SEC, National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA, Office of Government Corporate Council or OGCC, and the Governance Commission for GOCCs or GCG. The Maharlika Investment Corporation or MIC, which has an authorized capital stock of 500 billion pesos, shall act as the sole entity to mobilize and utilize the MIF for investments in transactions that will generate optimal returns on investments or ROIs. The national government shall source its 50 billion pesos contribution from 100% of the dividends of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP for the first and second fiscal years upon effectivity of Republic Act number 11954, its 10% share from the income of the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation or PAGCOR for a period of 5 years, 10% of revenues from gaming operations of other government-owned gaming operators or regulators, government assets and proceeds from privatization of government assets, and other sources such as royalties and or special assessments for a period of 5 years. Other GFIs and government-owned and controlled corporations or GOCCs may invest into the MIF as well, subject to their respective investment and risk management strategies. Those providing social security and public health insurance services, however, are absolutely prohibited from investing in the MIF. The Finance Department said that as enumerated under Section 14, the MIC is authorized to invest in a wide range of products, activities, and projects such as cash and other tradable commodities, fixed income instruments issued by sovereigns, domestic and foreign corporate bonds, listed or unlisted equities, and Islamic investments such as sukuk bonds, among others. The MIC may also issue all kinds of bonds, debentures, and securities, but this will not be guaranteed by the Philippine government. The MIC's board of directors will be composed of the Secretary of Finance as ex officio chairperson, the President and Chief Executive Officer or PCEO of the MIC as vice chairperson, President and CEO of the LBP, President and CEO of the DBP, 2 regular directors, and 3 independent directors from the private sector. The IRR also lists the penalties to be imposed to ensure the integrity of the fund. The law provides for the imposition of fines ranging from 1 million pesos to 15 million pesos and imprisonment from 6 to 20 years for various offenses such as willfully holding office while in possession of any disqualification, knowingly certifying the corporation's financial statements despite its gross incompleteness and inaccuracy, willingly allowing oneself to be used for fraud, and failure to sanction, report, or file appropriate action for graft and corrupt practices. National Treasurer Rosalia De Leon said the Maharlika Investment Fund Acts or IRR is faithful to the law to ensure that the prescribed procedures and guidelines will lead to its harmonized application. She said the Bureau of Treasury, along with the founding GFIs, DBP and LBP, worked closely with the technical working group to make sure that the IRR is consistent with the Maharlika Act.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Bureau of Internal Revenue or BIR on Tuesday reported that collections in January to July this year increased by 12.21%. In a statement, the BIR said total gross collection during the period amounting to 1.49 trillion pesos net of tax refund, up by 162.40 billion pesos than the tax collections in the same period last year. For July alone, the collection amounted to 272.13 billion pesos, up by 38.37% from the total collection in the same month last year. The amount collected during the period also exceeded the collection target by 5.09% or 13.22 billion pesos. For this year, the BIR's collection target amounts to 2.64 trillion pesos. This is higher by 12.9% or 303.50 billion pesos than the 2022 actual collection. BIR Commissioner Romeo Lumagi Jr. attributed the increased collections to the Bureau's intensified tax enforcement activities, specifically on the campaign against sellers and buyers of fake receipts, and with its new forged partnerships with multisectoral groups for the enhancement of taxpayers' service. With the said initiatives, he said they are confident that the Bureau can attain, if not surpass, its annual collection target this year. BIR's collection target for 2023 is 2.639 trillion pesos.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Marine Corps PMC Deputy Commandant Brigadier General Jimmy Larida on Tuesday said the first ever exercise island between Filipino and Australian troops was a resounding success. Speaking on the sidelines of the drill's closing ceremonies at the Armed Forces of the Philippines headquarters in Camp Aguinaldo, Quezon City, Larida, who was also the exercise director, said the planners and the training audience were able to gel immediately, which resulted in the success of the drills both in the air assault in Punta Baja in Palawan and the amphibious assault in Zambales. Larida said they would be able to improve the succeeding exercise island and that they were able to identify the procedures Filipino troops are already proficient with and what skills they need to improve. Larida said the next iteration of Exercise Island is eyeing a larger number of participants in its next edition in 2025. He also said he envisions the drills to be like the annual Balikatan exercises between the AFP and the United States military. Exercise Island is part of Australia's Indo-Pacific Endeavour 2023 or IPE-23, which started on August 14 and will end on August 31. It is also the first bilateral amphibious training activity between the AFP and the ADF. IPE-23 is Australia's flagship international engagement activity in the Southeast Asian and Indian Ocean regions, promoting security, stability, and stronger partnerships through bilateral and multilateral engagement training, capacity building, and humanitarian efforts. Exercise Alon includes an air assault exercise in Palawan on August 21, a combined amphibious assault exercise in Zambales on August 25, and live fire training as the final phase in Capas Tarlac on August 31. Participants included 560 from the AFP, 1,200 from the ADF with support from the 120 United States Marine Corps or USMC. Participating assets included the helicopter landing dock HMAS Canberra and frigate HMAS Anzac with the Tarlac-class BRP Davao del Sur, close air support from Royal Australian Air Force F-35A Lightning II aircraft, Australian Army M1A1 Abrams tank, and 2 PMC amphibious assault vehicles. Exercise Alon enhanced the force's capability in conducting combined operations and improved their tactics, techniques, and procedures on amphibious operations. Meanwhile, Department of National Defense Undersecretary Ireneo Espino, who represented Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. in the closing ceremony, said the exercise allowed the ADF and AFP with support from U.S. troops to successfully conduct complex operations in response to simulated security threat, but also open avenues for more interoperability and deeper people-to-people cooperation. Yusek Espino said the exercise also serves as a venue for the Philippine Navy to strengthen its naval capabilities on maritime security while enhancing interoperability and linkages with its Australian counterparts.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Win Peñano. Good day.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.